Fetch API call, how do we make that? Yeah, okay. So see, in Angular, we can make API call by two ways, either by using HTTP client or by using fetch API. So this fetch API, again, fetch is a API from HTML5. Okay, means JavaScript. Directly, it's something default, but what we have to make the API call. So what's the return type of fetch?
Promise.
Right? You can see promise is there. So promise can return two output, either resolve or reject, means success or error. Okay. So this line, once whatever this line is there, so obviously API call, whenever we are passing API call will take some time based on the speed. Then response will come. So once this line perform its operation, after that we need to do something. So we use dot then. Okay. Once whatever the line we have written, it has performed its way, right? After that, this then will execute. This is asynchronous programming. Mean once this line has performed its operation, after that, these lines will execute. Just like that, in normal HTTP client also, once this line executes, means it will wait for some time, and once it has performed all its execution, then inside subscribe block will execute. Okay, let's go to dashboard now. See, let's say we have error over here. After that, let's say I have alert. Let's say last alert first, and then inside subscribe we will get alert data. Now tell me what will be the sequence of the alert? What will be the sequence of the alert?
First, last, and data.
Less than data.
Right? So this line will execute, then our API call will start. So this won't execute unless API call data will be there. So and again, as I said, JavaScript is a synchronous language. It won't wait for this operation to get performed. It will move to the next line 55. So alert, then this alert, then once we get the response from the API call, then it will execute this subscribe block. Then we will have the alert data. समझा? सो पहले ये अलर्ट आएगा, उसके बाद डायरेक्टली ये आ जाएगा, उसके बाद जैसे एपीआई का रिस्पॉन्स आएगा उसके बाद ये अलर्ट आएगा. क्लियर?
Yes.
So this is asynchronous programming. Matlab, we have to wait for some time, and once that operation is done, then we have to execute some more number of lines. So that number of lines we put inside the subscribe block or the error block. Okay. So this is asynchronous programming. Now, so as I said, this HTTP client is what do we say? Is a combination of RxJS and everything. See, the return type of get. What's the return type of get function?
Observable.
Observable, right? Now, from where we get this observable? From RxJS. Okay, this observable
Yes.
is coming from RxJS. Okay, now RxJS is a separate library which only deals with asynchronous programming. Whatever we can do with promise, a way beyond that, means promise has very little things, but RxJS has so many things because obviously it's a dedicated library for that. So it has so many things, so many functions, operators regarding your asynchronous programming. Okay. So from that, we are going to see subject and subject behavior subject. Okay. Now, so this is a common service we will use, that is user service. Now the scenario which I will take is, let's say here inside this nav bar, or this search box is there, right? Now, let's say consider you are working on a project. Inside your project,
Anybody
Let
can
me.
list.
Sorry. Is it audible now?
Yes.
Consider you are working on a project. Inside that project, in every page, you have table. And inside each table, you are showing some data related to, let's say, in employee page, you are showing employee data. In salary page, you are showing salary data, right? Now, your client says, Ki, I need to have a common search box. Okay. I don't want that search box in each page. I need to have a common search box. Wherever I have search, I need to filter the table. So what we can suggest is like we can have a search box in our navbar, like over here. And let's say we are on the vendor table where we did the API call user. Okay. So let's say we are in the user table. If I search Harsh, so my card should filter. Okay. If I go to enrollment vendor, where we have the data again. Okay. Only one component we have shown the data. Okay. But you are able to imagine now. Let's say in every component, you are showing the list of record in the table or on the card. And wherever you are, if you search in this text box, the text box is in navbar. Okay. And if you search in this text box, your table or data should filter. Means if user type anything into your text box, that data you need to pass to your respective component, whatever the activated component is there. Okay. Let's say I search over here something. Ruby. Whatever I have typed inside this text box, that data I should get it over here in this component. Then only I can filter the table, na? Right? Getting it? I
Yes.
need to pass data from this text box to my component. Now my text box is in navbar component. So this is what the component name is? Layout component. Okay. Now layout component and this user component. Is there any relation between these two?
No.
We don't have parent-child relationship, correct? Because this is from
Yes.
our layout component and this is altogether different table. We don't have parent-child relationship. Where do we have parent-child relationship? Let's say right? So here, I think this is another component. So this parent is the pipe component, and inside that we have, I think, this ngFor or something component. So here we have parent-child relationship. If we have to pass data from this to this, we can make use of input. But in our case, this text box is in layout component, and our activated component is user, right? So we don't have any relation. We don't have any relations over here. So if you need to pass data from one component to another, and both of these components don't have any relation, I mean, those are not parent-child relationship or those are not in the same parent also. So in this case, you have to make use of subject or behavior subject to pass data. Okay.
But we cannot make a service, and in the service we can make a variable.
We can, but that is not the right way. Again, to read the data, you have to when you are going to call the function. On the page load, you will call it. Let's say you are storing the data into service. If I change it, how you will receive the data in your component? What will be the trigger point? On the page load, you can read it. But as soon as he change, how you will get the data by service?
With the getter is also when the value of the, like, when the change event or something.
But getter will always check for the values. When we
Sir,
That
create
we
can we
data,
have to
use
do.
subject?
so that's what I'm telling. Subject or behavior subject is the right way. Okay. Now, so सब्जेक्ट और सब्जेक्ट बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट कब यूज करना है? जब हमें एक कंपोनेंट से दूसरे कंपोनेंट में डेटा भेजना है, बट दोनों कंपोनेंट के बीच में कोई रिलेशन नहीं है, पेरेंट चाइल्ड भी नहीं है, और दोनों कंपोनेंट एक किसी पर्टिकुलर कंपोनेंट के पेरेंट चाइल्ड भी नहीं है, नथिंग रिलेशन इज देयर, देन वी हैव टू यूज सब्जेक्ट और बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट. Okay, but for that we need common service. Okay, so let's say we have this common service that is user. So in this user service, I will be creating a subject. Now, in service, can we create a variable?
Yes.
Right? It's a class, so we can obviously create a variable. So let's say search change. Whenever we create a subject or a behavior subject, it's just a good programming practice that we have to add a dollar over there in your variable name. So that in each project we follow this, so that if anyone is checking something, so he will get to know like this is the subject if it has a dollar at the end. Okay. Colon. Now this is just
Sir,
a norm.
my question was why we cannot create getter.
I will explain. Let me complete this. Okay. So we have created a variable. After that, we have to specify data type. So now data type will be subject. See, from where we are getting the subject, RxJS. Okay.
RxJ.
Is equal to new subject. Sorry. After subject, we have to specify what type of data I'm going to store. So let's say string type of data, because we are going to type into the text box. Text box gives us the string type of data. Okay. String. This is your subject. Variable name, colon, subject. What type of data you are going to store inside the subject? So string, integer, boolean, array, it can be anything. Okay. Then we have initialized it like new subject and the data type. Okay. Let's try to remove it. So if I don't remove it, again, it will say just the normal way, like it doesn't have any initializers. That's why we have to initialize it by new property. Okay. This is how you create a subject. Now, let's open another component. That is first component is our layout. So from layout, we have to send the data. So as I said, where do we use subject? When we have to pass the data from one component to another, means we will send the data by using subject. With the help of subject, we will pass the data from one component to another. Okay. So layout component. So in layout component, we have this text box. Okay. Now what I will does, input is there. Input means once your text box value get changed, now immediately this input will trigger, function will trigger on change, on search change event. Let's create this function.
The spelling.
Hmm. Event. Let's just see if this event works properly or not. Debugger. If I change the text box value, yeah, see, we are getting the input. Means our debugger is getting called. That input function is properly working. Whenever text box value get changed, see. Okay. Now here is a question. If I don't use the input, what event I can use? What my question is, I just need to write a function on the text box change event. What you will write if you don't know the input? Which function you will write on
Change.
when
On
change will
click.
execute? No, click, how you will use click? Click
No
means,
input.
On change, sir.
see, you see
Yeah,
the
right.
difference, okay? Change. Just see properly how change works. Okay. I'm typing. Does my function executes? But when I click outside, then my function is triggering. Understood? See again.
Yes.
I'm typing, but my function
Yes,
is
sir.
not getting triggered. When I'm clicking outside, then my function got executed. Okay. Now if I move to input, once I type, my event is getting triggered. So which is the best one,
Input.
right? Is there any another function which we can use, event we can use?
Key up.
Which one? No, key up,
On
see,
key.
key up is there, but we cannot use key up and key down. Those are very performance, it will degrade your performance, key events. Apart from that, normally change we use, input is the right way. One more way is there. What is that? Experienced guys, you should know it. What's the other way?
Input.
NG model change. Anyone have used NG model change? See, if I use NG model change, now it won't suggest also. Why? Because if you have to use NG model change, first you need to create a variable and bind NG model over here, then only NG model will work. Okay. If your text box has a ng model directive added, then only that ng model function will work. Means whenever that text box value means that variable value get changed, your function will trigger. Okay. But if you don't have a variable and you just need a text box value change, so input is the best way. Fine. Now, so once the text box value get changed, we are calling this function, and with calling we are passing the event also. Event means input change event for complete event function object we are passing. So here we will get the data. See what type of data we get. I'm writing Q over here. So here you can see event we got in event dot target dot value. See, we got Q.
Yes, sir.
Understood now? So again, this is an intro. This, if you know the JavaScript, this is very basic. So how do we get the data from the event? Like if you are calling that event from a text box change or drop down change, how do we read that element data? So target dot value. Okay, event dot target dot value. Let's write it constant search text event dot target dot value. Okay, so here we will get the text box value. Now this text box value I have to send along with the subject. So first we need to create the instance of our service. So private user.
So we can use the inject also, inject way
Inject
to.
or constructor, anything. Okay. Now over here, this dot user service dot, see your subject is coming dot
Next.
next. So remember yesterday we saw this next method in interceptor. Okay. And then you have to pass the value. So this constant variable, I'm passing it over here. So this is means you are triggering, you are emitting value inside this subject. You are setting a value inside this subject. Okay. By using next method. Okay. Now into your parent component where we need to receive this value, that is user component. Let me open it side by side. All three files we need to show this properly. To see, in user service, we have created our subject. Okay. In layout component, we are emitting value by that subject with that subject. And now this subject, whatever the value this subject is emitting, we need to subscribe to that value in our user component. So on the ng on init or in the constructor, whatever the function which loads on the default. So there we need to write it. So in ng on it, I'm writing this dot user service dot, what's our subject name? Search change dot, see what type of data it is emitting? Subject, right? But subject has a type of observable. Subject is a type of observable. So if something has a observable data, what we can do?
Subscribe.
We can subscribe, right? So dot subscribe result colon string. We know like what type of data this subject is going to emit. So string. So that's why I'm going with string. Let's add a debugger over here. Okay. So see one more time. What we did in our service, we have created subject. Then in our layout component, once the text box value is getting changed, we are reading the text box value and that value we are emitting with the subject. And once this line execute now, immediately this subscribe will execute. See now how. Okay. Let's say W. We are in the layout component. Okay. We extracted the text box value in search text and that value we are passing in our subject. So once I continue from over here, see, immediately we got our subscribe executed, and here we got the value W in user component. Continue. A, in our layout component, we got the text box value WA, and we are emitting that value in the subject. Once I continue, your subscribe from user component is executing. See, here we got W. Means you are sending some value from layout component, and that you are getting in user component. Understood? So when this subscribe will execute, as soon as your subject has the value change, then your subscribe will execute. You're getting it, right? See, again, I'm passing some value, WAB. I'm in layout component. Once this line execute, once I continue, immediately my subscribe is getting executed. Whatever the new value I have passed, that I'm able to get it over here in result. Now this I can store it into my variable. Let's store it also. Now, whatever the value I get, that I can store it. See, T. Currently I'm in layout component. Once I'm emitting the value, whatever the value I'm getting T, that I'm storing into my variable. Understood? So
Yes, sir.
from layout component, we are sending some value with the help of subject. We are setting new value into subject, and once that subject value get changed, my subscribe block will execute automatically. Whenever there is a change in my subject value, this subscribe will execute automatically. Understood? एक कंपोनेंट से आपने वैल्यू चेंज, एक कंपोनेंट से वैल्यू आपने दूसरे कंपोनेंट में भेजा विद द हेल्प ऑफ सब्जेक्ट। जब जिस सब्जेक्ट की वैल्यू चेंज होगी, आपका ये सब्सक्राइब अपने आप एग्जीक्यूट हो जाएगा। ओके, दूसरे कंपोनेंट में ऐड करते हैं। जस्ट लाइक यूजर कंपोनेंट, आई विल डू द सेम थिंग इन वेंडर कंपोनेंट ऑल्सो। User service is equal to inject user service. Okay. Now, let's say I'm doing the subscribe in my tab change function. Dot. Just see properly, okay? See properly now. Now I go to vendor component. Okay. Once I change value, I got the event in my layout component. Okay. I'm emitting the value also. Only my user component is getting triggered because I have that in memory. But my vendor component, this subscribe is not getting executed. In vendor component, I have written the subscribe thing, right? But this is not executing. Why this subscribe is not executing? Even if we are setting some value in the subject, why it's not getting executed?
Because is it in
Because
method on tap change, no?
See, if
because at that time when we emit the value, there was no value. So we
no,
have to put the initial value in the
no,
subject.
see now, hey,
No,
I'm
no.
changing the value. Let's reload.
So which component is getting initialized first?
Wait, see properly. Currently, we are in the vendor component. If I'm changing my text box value, it is going to the layout component. I'm emitting the value also. But my in vendor component, I have the subscribe, right? So it should execute, but it's not executing. Why? And same way, if I go to the user component, it's executing over there. See, my user component subscribe is working fine, but same thing user component, why it's not working?
एक सर एनजी ऑनिट में है और एक जो है मेथड में, मेथड एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हुआ है।
राइट? देखो, हमने क्या किया था यूजर कंपोनेंट में, ये जो सब्सक्राइब है, where we have written this in ng unit. So by default, when our component get initialized, this function will get automatically initialized, and this get registered. So now we are listening to this event change. Okay, when this function get this, when the component initialized, this component get initialized properly, right? And this line will execute. So now we are constantly looking for a change in this subject, and once any change happens, our subscribe will execute. But in vendor case, we have added that subscribe in our tab change. The tab change function is not going to load on the page load. We might be calling it on some button click or somewhere. See, over here we are calling it. Now see, let's reload one more time. Just see properly, okay? I'm changing the text box value. My subscribe is not getting executed in vendor component. But if I change it, but if I click this button, in this button, what is going to have? That tab change function is going to trigger. Vendor component. Let's do one more time, then you will understand properly. See, if I'm changing something, my subscribe from my vendor component is not executing. Okay. If I clicked on this button, on this click of this button, I'm calling this tab change function. Now, this subject will kind of register. Okay. Now, if I change, see, my subscribe started working. Getting it?
No.
Now my subscribe is working. What was the difference then in previous case, and why it is why subscribe is working now?
On ng unit, we get the API, and on tab change, we need to click on this button. After that
No,
button, click, we get this API call.
no. See, my question is why on the page load my subscribe was not executing, and when I click on this button, it started executing. Why?
आप इनिशिएट कर चुके हो क्लिक के
See,
बाद।
what happens wherever you do the subscribe, right? Whenever you do the subscribe, you have to register it. Means on the page load, if this code is executed, then only it will be active. If you have written this code in a function that never get called, obviously this is just a piece of code. It's not going to execute. So that's why whenever we have to do the subscribe in case of subject or behavior subject code in constructor or any ng on it, so that on the page load it will register itself. ओके, ये जो हमारा कोड है सब्सक्राइब, ये तभी एग्जीक्यूट होगा जब आपका पेज लोड पे या फिर कहीं पे भी वो एग्जीक्यूट हुआ है। अगर आपने ऐसा फंक्शन लिखा है, फंक्शन में आपने ये कोड लिखा और ये फंक्शन कभी आपने कॉल ही नहीं किया है, तो ये कभी रजिस्टर ही नहीं होगा। तो इसमें वैल्यू चेंज होती रहेगी सब्जेक्ट में, लेकिन ये आपका सब्सक्राइब कभी एग्जीक्यूट ही नहीं होगा, क्योंकि ये रजिस्टर ही नहीं हुआ है। ये लाइन एग्जीक्यूट होगी पहली बार, तब जाके तो ये एग्जीक्यूट होगा ना सब्सक्राइब। अगर ये लाइन ही एग्जीक्यूट नहीं है कभी, तो उसका कुछ भी मीनिंग नहीं होगा।
Yes.
So that's why we put this code in ng on init or constructor or ng after unit, the function which gets executed on the page load by default. Understood?
सर एक क्वेश्चन है सर, जैसे ना एंगुलर रिएक्टिव प्रोग्रामिंग के केस में कई जगह ऐसे रजिस्ट्रेशन करता है, तो क्या हम ऐसा कोई देख सकने का कोई तरीका है क्या, जिससे मैं देख सकूं कि भाई क्या क्या रजिस्टर हो गया है और क्या क्या चीजें नहीं हो पाई है? ऐसा कोई इसमें कोई टूल या ऐसा कुछ होता है?
वो ng वाला टूल है ना ब्राउजर का, उसमें देख सकते अपन।
अच्छा।
ये एक टूल है ng, इसमें देख सकते हैं अपन। ऐसा एंगुलर में कुछ नहीं है, ये एक्सटर्नल ब्राउजर का टूल है, इसमें एग्जीक्यूशन कौन एंगुलर एप्लीकेशन नॉट डिटेक्टेड क्यों बोल रहा है?
ये बता रहा था ये पहले कौन से फंक्शन से कौन से फंक्शन में जा रहा है।
वो अलग हो गया, ये सिर्फ अपने को एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट देता है कि क्या क्या है, कौन से कंपोनेंट है, राइट? ये सारा दिखाता है वो। इसमें हम चेक कर सकते हैं कि एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट मतलब वेयर वी आर, इफ वी आर इन द फॉर लूप ना, सो हमारा एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट हो क्या हो गया, फॉर लूप वाला हो गया. इफ वी आर इन द इफ ब्लॉक, आवर एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट विल बी इफ ब्लॉक. कहाँ पे हो तुम अभी, वो पूरा उसका एक्सेस देता है. देखो मैं हॉवर कर रहा हूँ तो वो.
क्रोम एक्सटेंशन है सर,
हम्म.
ये क्रोम एक्सटेंशन है ना एंगुलर का,
हाँ.
एक्सपेक्ट वाला आई थिंक.
हाँ, इसके वजह से अपने को वो एनजी का भी एक्सेस मिलता है. एनजी डॉट गेट कॉन्टेक्स्ट, अभी हम कहाँ पे है वो पूरा मिलता है. हम डिबगर चाहिए उसके लिए तब जाके वो मिलता है. ओके,
अच्छा.
आई विल एक्सप्लेन दिस नाउ. क्लियर एवरीवन? So where do we use subject? When we have to pass the data from one component to another, and if those component doesn't have any relation, then only we can pass the data by using subject. What we need to do? First, we need a common service. Okay, in common service, we will create a subject. Okay, then we have to go to the component from where we have to send the data. So that is in our case, from layout component, we are sending the data. So wherever you want to send the data along with the subject, we have to make use of the next method. And inside round bracket, you will pass the value, whatever the value you need to trigger. And whenever this line will execute, wherever you are subscribing, so that subscribe will execute. So means whatever the data you are passing from over here, you will get that data over here. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, first we had a subject, then subject behavior came. Okay. Now there is a disadvantage with subject. Okay. Let's say I'm in the user page. I changed the value from layout component and I got the value in, let me go. It will be in the cache memory. Currently I'm in the user component. Okay. I changed the text box value. I got that subscribe in my user component. Okay. Continue. If I go to the vendor component, let me do this. Okay. So see, when from vendor component, this subscribe is not executing. It doesn't execute it, right? Getting it or no? See, let's reload again. Now I'm in the vendor component. Okay. Let me remove this debugger. See properly now. Currently, I'm in vendor component. If I search, my vendor component subscribe is executing. Okay, clear? If I go to the user component, in my user component, my subscribe is not getting executed. Okay, this got executed, but not inside. Subscribe not executing. Again, I'm going to vendor. If I change some value, my vendor component subscribe is getting executed. If I go to user component now, see both the places now it is executing, because whenever we navigate now, it keep that execution context in our memory. Say it properly one more time. Currently I'm in vendor component. If I store some value in my subject, I'm getting the value in my vendor component. But if I navigate to the user component, in user component also we are subscribing to the value, but here I'm not getting the value. In my subject, I had the value, right? In my subject, we had the value. But when I'm navigating to the user component subscribe is not executing. Okay. Now
Why?
let's reload it. If I'm in user component and if I'm emitting some value, that I'm able to receive. See, I'm able to receive the value in user component. If I navigate to vendor, again my vendor subscribe is not getting executed. What is happening? How it is behaving like this? Or what is happening currently? अभी क्या हो रहा है? जो मैंने 2-3 बार करके दिखाया, क्या हो रहा है?
सर एमिट नहीं हुई वैल्यू इसमें।
Initial value, behavior, subject.
See, how subject work is when you are emitting the value from the subject, okay, and if that subscribe, wherever you are subscribing that value, it's loaded into the DOM, then only it will receive the value. Getting it? When you are emitting the value with the help of subject, and wherever you are receiving that value, wherever your subscribe is there, whatever the component you have subscribed, if that component is loaded into the browser right now when you are emitting, that subscribe will execute only. Understood? So that's why currently I'm in vendor. If I'm emitting value, only my vendor subscribe will execute. If I navigate to the user, even though I'm subscribing to this in the user component also, user component subscribe won't execute. But if I change the value, now I will be able to get it because my user component is in my, sorry, in user component, now it's loaded into the browser. So this subscribe, this receiver is active.
ओके,
तो
एक्टिव यूआरएल ही काम करता है, मतलब अगर एक्टिव यूआरएल एक्टिव नहीं है
एक्टिव
वो।
कंपोनेंट है तो वो
हाँ,
कंपोनेंट डॉम में लोड है तो when
अगर
I'm
डॉम नहीं करेगा ये।
right, when I'm emitting the value from the subject, wherever I'm subscribing that subject value, if that component is loaded into the browser, then only I will be able to receive that value. Okay, in this case what is happening? Yeah,
सर मॉड्यूल अगर होता जिसमें 4-5 कंपोनेंट होते और मैं वो मॉड्यूल लोड करता।
no, it's not about module, it's about your specific component.
अच्छा, मतलब इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, बस कंपोनेंट ही जो लोड है वही वहीं पे
Right.
जाएगा।
Okay,
ओके
see now.
ओके।
ओके, सो हिंदी में मैं बताता हूँ प्रॉपरली। जब आप सब्जेक्ट से डेटा एमिट कर रहे हो, जहां जहां पे आप सब्सक्राइब कर रहे हो, वो कंपोनेंट अगर डॉम में लोड है, पेज में लोड, अभी ब्राउजर में लोड है, उसका ही सब्सक्राइब एग्जीक्यूट होगा। ओके, सबको समझा ये?
यस सर।
जब मैं सब्जेक्ट से वैल्यू एमिट करता हूं, जहां जहां पे मैंने उस सब्जेक्ट को सब्सक्राइब किया है, वो कंपोनेंट अगर तुम्हारे डॉम में है, उसी का सब्सक्राइब एग्जीक्यूट होगा। ओके, अगर लेट्स से अभी मैं यूजर कंपोनेंट में हूं, ठीक है, आई हैव एमिटेड सम वैल्यू फ्रॉम ओवर हियर, आफ्टर दैट vendor component loads. We have emitted value before some time, then my vendor component load, so I won't be getting the value whatever it has. That's the limitation of subject. Okay, so what it does, it doesn't track, ये ट्रैक नहीं करता है कि किसको वैल्यू मिली और किसको वैल्यू नहीं मिली है। फ्यूचर सब्सक्रिप्शन अगर आया है, फ्यूचर में किसी ने सब्सक्राइब किया है, तो उसको ट्रैक नहीं करता कि उसको वैल्यू मिली है कि नहीं मिली। ओके, सो दिस
ओके सर।
एडवांटेज गेट्स हैंडल्ड विद बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट। लेट्स से तुम्हारे व्हाट योर क्लाइंट सेड कि इफ आई हैव सर्च ओवर हियर, लेट्स से let's your client says see, whatever I have searched, if I am in a vendor page and if I navigate to the user page, so this search box value, whatever the value we have, my grid should filter according to this. Means when you are navigating over here, again you should be able to receive this value whenever, मीन किसी भी पेज पे जा रहे हो, अगर टेक्स्ट बॉक्स में वैल्यू है, तो जैसे मेरा पेज लोड होता है बाय डिफॉल्ट उसके रिलेटेड वैल्यू मेरी फिल्टर होके आनी चाहिए। Means
राइट।
even if I emitted some value from in user component, when I navigate to the vendor component, I should be able to receive this value. So now if you have a scenario like this where you need to, doesn't matter when you emitted the value by subject, your sub component was there loaded or not. Whenever your component load, your subscribe should execute, means you should get the value.
So
Okay, so in this case we have
सब्जेक्ट जो होता है वो करंट वैल्यू इमिट को लिसन करता है, जो
current,
पहले वाली स्ट्रीम को नहीं करता।
नहीं,
बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट
current
में
value
केस में,
yes,
सॉरी,
yes, yes,
बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट के केस में जो पीछे की ऑब्जर्वेबल स्ट्रीम होता है उसको भी लिसन करता है।
हाँ, that's what I said ना कि when you emit a
ओके
value
गॉट
from
इट।
subject, whatever the subscription, whatever the जिस भी component में wherever the component you are subscribing, if that component is currently loaded, that subscribe will only execute. If you are another component loaded into the browser after some time, it won't get that value because it was not there when subject value got emitted. Okay. Now this thing we can handle with behavior subject. So
the best way of doing is
no,
always use behavior subject.
No. It's again related to your scenario. If you need the latest value, if you have a scenario, let's say your client says, I don't want, let's say a text box value is Amar in use vendor component. If I navigate to user, I don't want my grid to be filtered with Amar. I will search now. So if you have a requirement like that, why you will use behavior subject, right? Okay, so it's scenario based. Both thing we have to use. Subject also we use and behavior subject also we use. Now, search behavior colon behavior subject data type string.
So all these questions are in interview question preparation.
Yes. Okay. Now one more difference. See, when we created the subject, it was not required to provide the initial value. But when we create the behavior subject, it is required that we have to initialize it also. So after this, round bracket empty. So first difference, in case of subject, it is not required to initialize it. But in case of behavior subject, we have to initialize it. Otherwise, it will provide you the error. See, okay, behavior subject has to be initialized. Clear? Whatever default value you need to give, that you can do it over here. Okay. Now, in layout component, at a time I'm emitting value with behavior subject also and subject also. Next method and everything stays the same. Okay. Method is not going to change up if subject or behavior subject. Now I will write the piece of code over here and over here also. Behavior and same thing in vendor component also. Okay, so see what I have done in user component. I have created a behavior subject. From layout component, we are emitting value in both the subject also and the behavior subject also. In vendor component also, we are receiving, we are subscribing to subject also and behavior subject also. And in user component also, we are subscribing to subject and behavior subject also. Now see the difference. Currently, I'm in user component. Okay. Once I emit the value, my subscribe got executed because obviously when I'm emitting the value, user component is loaded. So subject got executed and then behavior subject also got executed. Okay. Now if I navigate to the vendor, see which will execute. Which got executed? सॉरी पावर ऑफ है, मेरा लैपटॉप बंद होगा, क्विकली मैं बता। ओके, बैक ऑन है, ठीक है। आवाज आ रही है?
यस सर।
स्क्रीन दिख रही है सबको?
यस सर।
ओके, लेट्स डू इट अगेन। Okay, I'm in user component. From user component, I am emitting some value. Okay, my subject also got executed and my behavior subject also got executed. Now I'm navigating to vendor page. So in vendor page, what is executing?
Behavior subject.
Behavior subject. See, we got the value. Okay. If I again go to the user page, see, behavior subject is getting executed. If I'm changing some value, okay. If I navigate, now see, I don't know from which which version we got. Even if we navigate now, my previous component object will still active. So that's why even if we navigate, see, user component will also execute. See now, currently we are in the vendor component only. Okay. If I'm changing the value, my user component subscribe is also getting executed. It's not loaded into the browser, right? But still it is executing. So I think 15 or 16 was there from where it started happening. If current component is vendor, na, right? So still user component is active. See, but it should not happen. When you reload, na, then your cache memory will get clear and then it won't work like that.
So maybe then at that case on ng destroyed we have to cancel
Yeah.
subscription.
Right. Okay.
Check it in your iPhone.
So understood everyone how subject and behavior subject works. So behavior subject will track who has got the data or not, but subject won't track. Whatever is listening currently, wherever you are listening, if that component is loaded into the DOM, it will emit the data to that subscription only. But if your subscription, wherever you are subscribing, if that component loaded after some time, it won't provide the data to that. Okay. जब आप सब्जेक्ट से वैल्यू एमिट करते हो, जहां पे भी आप रिसीव कर रहे हो, वो कंपोनेंट अगर डॉम में है तो उसको वैल्यू मिलेगी. अगर आपने कुछ देर बाद वो कंपोनेंट लोड हुआ, इवन दो यू आर सब्सक्राइबिंग टू दैट सब्जेक्ट, यू वोंट गेट द डेटा. बट सेम अगर बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट है, आपने डेटा एमिट किया, जब आपने एमिट किया तब आपका कंपोनेंट वहां पे नहीं था, कुछ देर बाद आपका कंपोनेंट लोड हुआ, तब भी उसको वो डेटा मिलेगा. बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट, तो बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट ट्रैक करता है किसको डेटा मिला, किसको डेटा नहीं मिला. क्लियर?
यस सर, बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में मतलब सभी को डेटा एक बार तो प्रोवाइड हो जाता है,
हो
चाहे
ही
वो
जाता
डॉम में है,
है नहीं
वो
है,
सबको दे
बाद में
देगा
आए, मिलेगा ये डेटा. सो यही है जो ट्रिकी पार्ट है. अब सब्जेक्ट, व्हेन यू एक्सप्लेन दिस इन द इंटरव्यू, यू डोंट हैव टू लिमिट योर आंसर दैट we don't have to initialize subject and we have to initialize behavior subject. No one is interested in that. This is the scenario what they want. Okay.
राइट सर, राइट.
And try to explain like this. Have a scenario like this search box or anything. Okay. Then only you will be able to understand it properly. Clear everyone?
यस सर.
Anyone having
Yes,
any
sir.
doubt? Those who have joined from advanced only. I don't know about you, like you have the proper knowledge, basic knowledge clear or not. So let me know if you have any doubt. Those who have joined late.
तो सर VS कोड में हम TS और फाइल में कोई वैल्यू फाइंड करते हैं, फिर हम HTML में नेविगेट करते हैं, तो वो वैल्यू HTML में भी दिखती है. जैसे कोई टेम्पलेट रेफरेंस वेरिएबल है व्यू चाइल्ड का, तो उसको हम कंट्रोल F करके वो करते हैं और फिर हम HTML में जाते हैं, तो HTML में भी वो चीज़ फाइंड में दिखती है. इसका मतलब वहाँ बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट यूज हुआ होगा, राइट?
नहीं, इसका और बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट का कैसे लेना देना है?
आप कोई वैल्यू पे कंट्रोल F करोगे और फिर वहाँ HTML फाइल में जाओगे, नेविगेट अवे करोगे TS से.
ओके, मतलब लेट्स से,
HTML
नहीं, मेरे को क्वेश्चन ही नहीं समझा. HTML का देखो, सब्जेक्ट रहे या फिर बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट रहे, HTML का कुछ भी लेना देना है क्या उसमें?
नहीं, ये खाली मैं ये VS कोड में हम दूसरे पेज में नेविगेट करते हैं, तो ये कंट्रोल F की वैल्यू जो प्रिजर्व होती है वो
अच्छा,
वो
वैसा पूछ रहे हो. हाँ, ठीक है. जैसे ये
कंट्रोल F.
कंट्रोल F किया मैंने,
अब
यहाँ पे सर्च
HTML में
टेक्स्ट लिखा.
जाओगे,
हाँ,
हाँ,
तो
तो
यहाँ पे अगर
वो
वो
वैल्यू,
वैल्यू है तो ऑटोमेटिकली दिखती है, सर्च होके आ जाती है, वैसा बोल रहे हो?
हाँ,
हाँ, तो ये अपने आप काम करता है ब्राउजर, ये विंडोज इसका वीएस कोड का फीचर है वो। अब यही
हाँ
अगर तुमने विजुअल स्टूडियो यूज किया ना डॉटनेट वाला, उसमें ये काम नहीं होता। अगर तुमने एक फाइल पे विंडोज सर्च ओपन किया, अगर तुमने फाइल
हाँ हाँ।
चेंज किया ना, ये अपने आप बंद हो जाता, फिर से सर्च करना पड़ता। बट वीएस कोड में वो चीज है। ओके,
हम्म।
ठीक है। और किसी को कुछ डाउट है? सो ये
सर एक
बिहेवियर।
वो गेटर वाला समझा देना।
रुक जाओ ना, मुझे
गेटर।
एग्जाम्पल क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा उसके। तुमको समझेगा, लेकिन बाकियों के लिए समझने के लिए मुझे प्रॉपर सिनेरियो क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा।
सर बाकी दो और भी सब्जेक्ट है, जैसे रिप्ले सब्जेक्ट, वो अभी इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है।
नहीं, वो प्रोजेक्ट में सिनेरियो के टाइम पे दिखा दूंगा, रिप्ले कब काम आता है तो।
बाकी अभी दो इम्पोर्टेंट होता है, मतलब सब्जेक्ट एंड बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट, और
नहीं,
ये इंटरव्यू।
बिहेवियर एंड subject and behavior subject we use when we have scenario like this, when we have to pass data from one component to another. Okay, the replace
यस।
subject and other जो subject है उसका अलग सिनेरियो है।
ओके ओके।
ओके, फाइन। एम्प्लॉय प्रोजेक्ट का किसी
तर आपण सिग्नल्स पण असं यूज करू शकतो ना, सिग्नल सारखंच काम
हाँ,
करते
सिग्नल
नाही.
सारखंच आहे, जस्ट लाइक सिग्नल। बट सिग्नल वैल्यू जब एमिट होती है तो एचटीएमएल में अपन उसकी वैल्यू एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, राइट। डॉट टीएस में उसकी वैल्यू लेना है तो वो इफेक्ट का यूज करके करना पड़ता है। तो अगेन इट्स लाइक जो सीधी सीधी चीज थी, जो सब्जेक्ट और बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में बहुत इजीली होती हुई है, सिग्नल में वही चीज करने के लिए थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा कोड और ट्रिकी कोड लिखना पड़ता है। सो इजिएस्ट वे इज सब्जेक्ट। आई नो लाइक एंगुलर टीम हैज brought up the signal and they are saying like instead of RxJS we should use signal, but we cannot use signal instead of RxJS. Some
इन्होंने
limited
रिएक्ट
part
का
it is doing.
इन्होंने रिएक्ट का फीचर अडॉप्ट करने की कोशिश की है सर, यूज स्टेट वाला।
Yeah, kind of.
वैसा ही
बट
लग
वो
रहा है।
उन्होंने उसके लिए नहीं किया है, जोन डॉट जेएस के लिए किया उन्होंने।
हाँ, मतलब उसको हटाना चाह रहे हैं पूरी
हाँ,
तरीके
जोन
से।
डॉट जेएस टू रिमूव टू
फीचर
गेट rid
वैसे
of
ही
the
एक रेंडर कर
dependency.
देता है। कंपोनेंट री रेंडर कर देता है एक तरह से।
Right. ओके, लीव प्रोजेक्ट का क्या स्टेटस है? किसको कुछ इशू है?